All right, welcome back. It's the AVID Investor Podcast with me, your host, Josh Adamek. And today we're going to talk about wholesaling. How do you get started wholesaling? What is wholesaling? And, how do you monetize it? And so here we go. Let's dive into some details. If you recall, if you've been following the episode since the beginning, if you've been following the podcast, early on, I talked about three main ways to make money in residential real estate: wholesaling, retailing, also known as flipping, and cash flow, long-term plays, rentals, cash flow properties, whatever you want to call it. So over the next three episodes, including this one, I'm going to dive into the details of each one of those facets, each one of those strategies of investing in real estate. And today we're going to talk about wholesaling. As I mentioned many times, I'm involved with Acre of Pittsburgh, our local RIO, Real Estate Investors Association, and I get the opportunity to meet a lot of new investors, a lot of people that are just getting started in the business, just learning about the business, and immediately they're geared towards wholesaling. I want to be a wholesaler. I want to wholesale properties. They see the blogs, the podcast, the different online platforms that are talking about, wholesaling's easy. Wholesaling is the best way to get started in real estate. It requires no money, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to dive into the details, my thoughts, my opinions on wholesaling. Is that a good strategy to get started? Maybe, maybe not. Is that a good way to make money? Absolutely, you can make money in wholesaling real estate. So let's go. Let's talk about the details there. So first off, what is wholesaling? Wholesaling real estate is, basically what it sounds like. You're buying a property, you're securing a property, you're getting equitable interest in a property, and you're going to pass it along to another investor, with doing little to no work on that property. You may gain control of that property through equitable interest, meaning you secure the property with a contract, a sales agreement, an option agreement. You put down some hand money, you have equitable interest in that property, and then you're going to sell that equitable interest to somebody who's going to go through, who's going to close on that property. Or there's times where you're wholesaling properties, you purchase the property, maybe you're buying properties, and maybe you're on another level, you're buying properties in bulk, and then you're going to break them out and sell them individually, or sell them in smaller portfolios to different investors. So it's basically, buying as is and selling as is, wholesaling it. If you're going to go into retailing, you're going to buy it, you're going to fix it up, and then you're going to sell it to a retail buyer. Typically wholesaling, you're buying a distressed property and you're selling it to another investor who's going to take it to the next level, who's going to do that rehab, or who's going to clean it up and keep it in portfolio. So wholesaling is buying and selling as is. First things first, if you're going to wholesale properties, if you're going to do anything in regards to real estate investing, or business, or anything like that, check with your attorney first. I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm giving you strategies that I've used in the past, that maybe I've used in the past, that other investors have used in the past, but things are state specific. And when you're going to get into a legally binding contract, if you're going to get into business, check with your attorney first. Make sure you're using the proper agreements. Make sure you're legal within the state, the jurisdiction that you're operating in. Because again, proper preparation prevents poor performance. And the last thing you want to do is get out there, start wholesaling properties, blow up, end up doing, dozens of deals per year. And then you have an issue, you find out you did it wrong, or you did it illegally, and then it goes back. I mean, they'll go back and they'll look at it. They'll look at your history, all the transaction you've done. If you've done something that was illegal, if you've assigned contracts and you're not permitted to assign, you didn't pay the proper transfer tax. I mean, that's huge. You could be liable for a lot of money. So check with your attorney and make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're doing this legally. And again, when you want to wholesale properties, You typically gain an equitable interest in that property, and you sell that property to, another investor for a margin, for a markup, for a profit. So let's talk about that. Let's break down that details. Now you know the legal side. Got to get that out there. Make sure you're state specific. You're securing those properties with a sales agreement. Make sure that's a legit. If you're in Pennsylvania like we are, PA, make sure it's PA state specific. Make sure you tell full disclosure with your attorney. Tell them what you're looking to do. They'll provide you with the proper documentation to get it done legally, ethically, morally. And make sure you follow those guidelines, follow those, in each transaction that you do. But when you want to wholesale properties, as I said, a lot of people say, a lot of people teach, a lot of people preach that wholesaling is a good way to get started in real estate, because a lot of people say and teach and preach that wholesaling requires little to no money. So is that true? Yes, to an extent. Can you wholesale properties without a huge marketing budget, without an office, without a staff, without a team, without a ton of resources? Yes, it can be done. However, it requires time. In my opinion, it's very hard to wholesale houses if you're still working a full-time job. Why? Because when you do your marketing, whatever type of marketing, can it be done? Absolutely, it can be done. But things may move a little bit slower than you'd like. Here's why. When you market for properties, if you're going to send out mailers, if you're going to do some some calling, or some call banks, or whatever type of marketing you're going to do, you got to be available to take those leads. You got to be available to answer the phone. You got to be available to take those calls. And maybe if you're working a full-time job, you do have the availability, but you have to be available when those leads hit. You got to take those calls. You got to be available to follow up. You got to be available to set appointments, and you got to work around the seller schedule. Not every seller is available to meet you after hours or on the weekends, or whenever your free time is. When I was wholesaling a lot of homes, when I started doing volume wholesaling, it was my full-time thing. So when I had a lead hit, I take the call, I'd set the appointment. I go look at it. We do the proper agreements, documentation, and I was off. And then, on the flip side, on the opposite side, once you've secured that deal and you're marketing, the property for sale to other investors, you have to be available to show them the house. You have to be available to get over and show them the property and work around their schedule. So you have to be available. You have to have time. You have to dedicate some time when you're wholesaling properties. So let's go into that a little bit further. How do you find these deals? How do you find these opportunities? Wholesaling is two parts. You need deals, you need opportunities, and you need buyers. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? That's a trade-off. I mean, that's a personal opinion. That's different wholesalers work different strategies. And neither strategy is right or wrong. I know, there's a number of wholesalers out there that, go out and secure the deal and market to the masses, secure a buyer, and, close out the transaction. I know some other very successful wholesalers that just work with a smaller group of buyers, and more so, they work with their buyers, and they know what type of properties their buyers are looking for. They know, when their buyers are ready for another project, and they fill their buyers pipeline. So they market for a specific type of property, and they have, 10, 20, 10, 15, 20 buyers that are their go-to buyers, that they just, feed them and fill their pipeline. So again, neither one is right or wrong. It's just different strategies, different, ways of thinking when it comes to wholesaling properties. So how do you find the deals? How do you market for deals? I've said many, many times over the last couple of weeks that, there's market cycles. And in my opinion, we're at the top of a market cycle. So top of a market cycle creates, more competition. And, it's right now in the market, it's harder there's a lot of competition. So it's harder to secure deals than it was maybe 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 24 months ago. Can you still find deals? Yes, absolutely. I mean, we still buy houses almost every week. Um, but how do you find those deals? How do you stand out from the competition? What can you do to find those deals? What are different strategies, different ways of marketing? I mean, there's countless ways to market for properties. You just have to. If you're new to the business, you have to, you have to try different strategies, see what works. You have to look at your marketing budget. How much money do you have to allocate towards marketing to securing these deals? If you have a large marketing budget, you can do some direct mailers. You can buy lists. There's list brokers out there. You can get the county data. You can query the data. You can create your own lists if you know how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, you can find a list broker. Give the list broker the criteria of what you're looking for as far as leads. Are you looking for probates? Are you looking for pre-foreclosures? Are you looking for landlords that have owned their home for more than 15 years, where the tax bill, or property owners that have owned their home for more than 15 years, where the tax bill goes somewhere other than the property address. Sometimes that means that there's a mortgage on the property and it's going to the lien holder. Sometimes that mailing address means that somebody owns the property. It's an investment property, and the tax bill goes to their PO box or their office or wherever they get their mail. So you can break down those lists. You can give the list broker the criteria of what you're looking for. If you're working with a list broker, sometimes they can provide an email, sometimes they can provide a phone number. Sometimes, you get the mailing address. You can send the mailers, you can do the calls, you can do the text. But again, you got to make sure whatever type of marketing you're doing, it's legal marketing. I know a big thing right now is the do not call list. So if you're doing a robocall or a call bank, you just got to watch, what you're doing, make sure you've ran it through the do not call list. You're not you're not putting yourself at risk for fines or penalties or anything like that. So you got your list brokers. You have, of course, the internet. You have the click funnels, the CRMs. There's a lot of platforms out there where you can sign up for, click funnel, a CRM, where they'll build the click funnel through social media, through different, outlets on the internet, through different platforms on the internet. And there's the internet lead generation. Of course, there's Google AdWords. So you got your mailers, you got your calls, you got your internet, your CRM. There's old school ways. There's bandit signs. Again, with bandit signs, before you go plaster the town with bandit signs, make sure you're doing it legally. There's the city of Pittsburgh, again, where we're at. A lot of local municipalities have restrictions on hanging signs, in the public right of way, which means telephone poles are off limits. And certainly do not hang signs on a stop sign. I mean, I see that time and time again. People end up, hanging signs at intersections, and you're driving around, you see a "We Buy Houses" sign, taped or strapped to a stop sign, or an intersection. God forbid somebody gets hurt. Guess who's liable for that? You block the intersection. You've taken somebody's attention away from driving and cause an accident. You could be liable for that. So before you hang up signs, make sure you're one, if you need to get a sign permit, if you can get a sign permit, get your permit. Where you're hanging the signs, just be cautious of where you're hanging those signs. Good place to hang signs is on a property that you already own. It's private property. If you have a friend that owns a building or a property on a main road, those are great places to hang signs. But again, see if there's any restrictions as far as permitting or anything like that for signs. Years ago, we've done really well as far as lead generation with hanging signs in areas that we were permitted to hang signs. And we talked about sending mailers. Mailers can be a good conversion. We've again, years ago we did some yellow letters, some handwritten yellow letters, and there's platforms online, yellowletterscomplete.com. There's websites like that where you can buy your yellow letters. I know postcards are big right now. I get a whole stack of them, every week in from the post office. A lot of people send postcards because you can send, a whole lot more postcards for your money than sending letters or cards or things like that. The post is cheaper, the print's cheaper. So there's different ways to market through mailers. There's the old school way that nobody talks about, and nobody wants to do this, but it requires work. But there's door knocking. Go find your target area. Walk around, knock on doors, talk to people, talk to the neighbors. I've done this before. We've done this a lot in the past. We're working on a property in the neighborhood. We'll circle the neighborhood, just knock on the doors, introduce ourselves, talk to people. But again, you got to watch, make sure you're doing this legally. Some neighborhoods, some boroughs, some cities have no soliciting requirements where you may need a permit to go around and knock knock on the doors and talk to people. That's kind of a gray area in my opinion, because when we knock on doors, when we do some door knocking, we're not selling anything. We're not going door to door selling vacuum cleaners or selling anything like that. We're not selling baseball tickets or we're not offering anything for sale. We're just going around knocking on the doors, talking to people. Maybe we have a flyer telling them what we do, but we're not looking to sell anything. We're actually looking to buy things. So, are we soliciting? Maybe not. But anyways, just check with the municipality before you go out and do that. So door knocking can be huge. And here's why. We drive through neighborhoods all day long, every day. We're always, active in buying real estate, looking at new projects, checking on our current projects. And it's amazing. The difference you see when you get out of your car and you walk through the neighborhood versus driving through the neighborhood at 15, 20, 25 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is. When you slow down, go walk and go door to door, you see a whole lot more. And every time, you come across, the little old lady or the little old man on the street, who will sit down, have a conversation with you and tell you everything about every house in the neighborhood. She'll tell you that house over there has been vacant for 2 years, and the guy across the street, it's his sister that owns the property, and they need to sell it. So those are the conversations that happen when you get out of the car and you talk to people. And I know a lot of people don't talk about this. A lot of people don't preach it or teach it, because it's not something that you can really systematize. It's not something that's quick. It's not something that's efficient. But when it comes down to it, if you want to be the wholesaler, you got to find the deals, and you got to find the deals and the opportunities that nobody else is finding. So a great way to do that is by doing things that nobody else is doing. So if you can, go out, knock on some doors, walk the neighborhoods, talk to people. If you can hang some flyers on the door handle or something, again, check with the borough and the municipality, the city that you're in. Make sure that you're permitted to do that, because the last thing you want to do is go around the neighborhood, hand out a bunch of flyers, and then start getting calls from the code enforcement officer telling you that you're not permitted to do that. You better go get your flyers or get your signs, or else they're going to start issuing and imposing fines. So, that's a great way to market for properties. So you've got your properties. How do you find your buyers? Or do the buyers come first and then you find the properties? Again, that's your opinion, or that's going to be up to you. That's going to be your strategy. But how do you find your buyers? There's a number of ways to find buyers. I'm a buyer. If you want to go find me, if you want to go find deals that meet my criteria, we'll buy them. But how do you find more guys like me? Join your local RIA. I've talked about that many, many times. A RIA is a Real Estate Investors Association. It's a club for people that want to network and invest in real estate. If you're in Pittsburgh, if you're in and around Pittsburgh, I'm a member of Acre of Pittsburgh. I have been for many, many years. If you want to check it out, the website's acrepgh.org. Anyone's welcome as a guest. ACRE is a subchapter of National RIA. If you're not in Pittsburgh, go check out the National RIA website and find a chapter that's in your city, that's in your town. Chances are pretty good if there's not one in your town, there's probably a subchapter of National RIA relatively close by. So find your local RIA, start going to the meetings, start networking with people. When you go to your RIA, there's going to be all different types of investors. There's going to be wholesalers. There's going to be flippers. There's going to be retailers. There's going to be, your long-term guys, your older guys and girls. There's going to be your long-term investors, people that have been in the business for 20, 30 years that, have big portfolios that, maybe or may not still be actively buying, but, get to those clubs, get to those organizations, start talking with people, start networking, start seeing what kind of deals they're looking for. If you don't have a local RIA, or in addition to joining your local RIA, go on the internet, social media, go on Facebook, find the club or the group that's in your area. I know, again, in Pittsburgh, we have Pittsburgh Real Estate Investors on Facebook. There's something like 20,000 active members on there. A big chunk of those people are local. There's some people that aren't local, but still tune in and still invest in real estate. So that's how you build your buyers list. Can you go to a list broker, and can you buy a list of buyers, of cash buyers? Yes, absolutely. You can do that. I've never done it. I've been able to, when I was wholesaling properties big, it was kind of like, it was pre-social media. It was like kind of when Craigslist was just kind of catching on. So we're going back, I want to say 10 plus years ago. So things have changed, and business models have adapted since then. But I'm giving you strategies that some of the strategies that I've used in the past, but also some of the strategies that I see, other investors doing and working. So you find there's ways to find your deals, there's ways to find your buyers, and then wholesaling is bringing the two together. Securing the deals, securing the buyers. A couple of tips that I have on wholesaling real estate that are very important, in my opinion, is you need to look at wholesaling as a volume business. So you want to create value as the wholesaler. You want to find solid deals, solid opportunities that make sense to real buyers. You want to build a relationship, build a rapport with those buyers where you can do repeat business, volume business. In my opinion, you shouldn't be looking to knock it out of the park, with these gigantic fees, when you close a deal and move and sell marginal deals to these investors or to your buyers. In my opinion, you're much further ahead if you build a relationship with real go-to buyers, pass the opportunity off, make a reasonable fee. In wholesaling, what is a reasonable fee? I mean, that's to be determined. For a long time, it was always preached, you should make $5,000 on a wholesale deal. You should make $5,000 on a wholesale deal. I've seen fees all over the place. I've seen fees as little as $500 or $1,000 or $1,500. I've seen fees upwards of six figures. It depends on the deal. I mean, it depends on the deal. It depends on the opportunity. It depends on the deal that you've secured and the opportunity that you're passing on to the buyer. There is no set fee when it comes to wholesaling. It comes, some wholesalers have the mentality, I got to make $10,000 on this deal. Well, what if the deal doesn't support a $10,000 fee? What if this deal supports a $1,500 fee? Okay, look at your volume. Look at your volume business. Are you able to secure this property, and are you able to pass it on for a margin and make some money? Whether it's $1,500 or $10,000 or $30,000, whatever that number is, whatever that margin is, it's a volume business. Make sure you're providing value to your buyers. Some wholesalers I see operate off the greater fool theory. They sign up a garbage house, put it out there and, try to sell it for, a crazy margin. Will it sell? Yes, maybe it'll sell, but that's the greater fool theory. You're banking on somebody buying that house that doesn't know what they're doing, because they're going to overpay for a garbage house in a garbage area. Yes, you've made your wholesale fee, but in my opinion, you've done a disservice to more or less the industry as a whole, the business as a whole, because you're passing garbage houses for higher prices, overpriced houses that don't make sense, and you're doing that not that you're it could be liable or anything like that. Could you? Maybe not, if you didn't disclose something that you were aware of. But you know you're if you want to work with buyers, potential buyers that really don't know what they're doing, what's the likelihood that they're going to close on that property, that they're going to have the funding available, that they're going to close on that purchase, and then that they're going to come back and be a repeat buyer for you. That's to be determined. But again, in my opinion, if you want to wholesale properties, if you want to be a wholesaler, you should build a relationship with buyers that are in the business, that understand the business, that consistently buy houses, and you want to feed their machine. You want to continuously sell properties to your go-to buyers. Why? Because when you build a relationship with a go-to buyer, whether that's me or whether that's somebody else that's in the business for a long time, you'll learn that when you have a real go-to buyer that's in the business, they always close on the property. There's never the issue, at the last minute, where there's a financing issue or something, or they disappeared or they got cold feet or whatever. I mean, at AVID Management Group, when we go under agreement to purchase a property, we close on the property. I mean, there's never an issue with funding, with financing, with last minute questions or concerns. We've looked at the deal up front. We've evaluated the deal. We've went under agreement, and then we're waiting for the closing company, the settlement company, to be ready to close out the transaction. Typically, that's a 3 to 4 week time frame. But if you're working with go-to buyers, you're not going to have an issue with getting that deal closed. However, if you've secured a property, if you're a wholesaler, you got a property under agreement, you're working with a homeowner, they're banking on that deal to close because you went under agreement. Typically when we go under agreement direct with a seller, we use a sales agreement that's as is, no contingencies. So when we've secured it, of course it's contingent on title clearance, but that's on the seller. That's on the seller to, clear the title. Actually, it's on the settlement company to clear the title, but it's the seller's responsibility to pay the mortgages, liens, back taxes, things like that, to provide clear title. But we buy the home as is, with no contingencies. We don't put contingencies in there. Some speakers, some coaches will tell you, just get a sales agreement and put some, contingencies in there, contingent upon inspection or buyer's partner's approval, or, these all they'll give you a whole list of BS contingencies, which is you're out if you can't sell the property. Terrible idea, in my opinion. If you're gonna go under agreement with a seller, if you're gonna go on a sales agreement with a seller, then that seller needs to know, should know that you're going to close on that property, that there's no issues. So, when we get a sales agreement, it's as is, where is, they clear the title gets cleared, we close on the property, no issues. If you're not able to do that, again, check with your real estate attorney, but you can use an option agreement. You can option the property. But again, in the past, when I've optioned homes, it's full disclosure to the seller. You're not using a sales agreement with contingencies. You're using an option agreement. And the explanation to the seller is, in my opinion, what I've done in the past, it's like, hey, Mr. Seller, this home isn't a good fit for, my company to purchase. However, we work with, a whole group of other real estate investors. If you want, we could secure this property. We can go under agreement with this option agreement, which gives me the option, not the obligation, to purchase the property if I can pass it on to one of my other investor friends. So the seller, looks at that. It's like the seller knows up front that you may or may not purchase this property. The seller knows that there's a reasonably good chance that you're going to close on that property, but the seller isn't giving up all hopes, with a sales agreement. So again, you want to make sure you're doing this business legally. You want to make sure you're doing this business ethically, and you want to make sure you're doing, you're moral in what you're doing, in my opinion. Set the seller's expectations properly. When you're working with your buyers, make sure you're providing them, good deals, good opportunities. And again, when it comes to wholesaling, especially, in Pittsburgh and areas like Pittsburgh, I always say Pittsburgh's a big city, but it's a small town. And when you're in a business and industry like real estate investing, a lot of people get to know, other folks in the business, especially with the internet and social media and, the Real Estate Investors Association. A lot of people know each other's business. And, if you're going to build a business as a wholesaler, you want to make sure that you're building that reputation as that good go-to wholesaler that provides real value to their buyers. You don't want to build that reputation as a wholesaler where he's just passing garbage, trying to get a fee. He's just throwing any crap out there that he can get an option on or a sales agreement on, and seeing if somebody will pay him more for the property. Do a little bit extra work, do your proper marketing up front, and make sure you're securing good deals, good opportunities for real buyers, and you'll be able to build that wholesaling business. So can you do it part-time? Again, yes, you can do wholesaling part-time. Can you do wholesaling full-time? Yeah, it's a full-time business. I mean, there's a lot of wholesalers out there that, that's the bulk of their business is wholesaling properties. So, it can be done on any level. I know there's a lot of investors out there, like myself and, my company. It's like, we don't actively wholesale properties. We're focused on, building our portfolio, building our long-term plays, focused on our equity partnerships. But every once in a while we get a lead that comes across, or, an opportunity that comes across. It's like, yeah, it's not a great fit for us, but, we can secure this. And I know this friend of mine or this other investor that, it may work for them. So, maybe a few times a year we wholesale properties. So it's something that can be full-time focus. It's something that can be, if the deal makes sense, let's secure it and properly secure it and set the expectations and and wholesale the property. So that's the bulk. That's my take on wholesaling. It's again, just make sure that you're legal, that you're state specific, that you're using the proper documentation. Make sure that when you're working with sellers, you're setting their expectations properly. When you're working with buyers, make sure that that you're providing good deals, that you're providing real opportunities and build that business, build that list of repeat buyers. So that's it. That's what I have on wholesaling. And again, I thank you guys for tuning in. If you find value in the message, in the information that I'm delivering, I'm not asking for anything in return other than, share this, send this link to a friend, share this on social media, help me spread the word, help me build the following here. That's all I ask for in return. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.